It'll work for-profit. It'll work for nonprofit. I got to know the wonderful lady who started Special Olympics, and Special Olympics is the most ruthlessly focused nonprofit I've ever seen. One of the reasons that they've grown so successfully and stay so successful. Economic development. Most economic development groups, no offense, I know there's some exceptions, most are completely ineffective. They don't really do anything because they don't really have a strategy, and they don't hire the right people. They hire risk-averse people rather than risk takers. So as a result, they spend all their time focused on building their membership and adding more committees. Most of them are really ineffective. They could use ruthless focus. Governments and authorities. Most governments and authorities get off into areas where they have no business being, and they end up growing, and they grow badly. Now, how do you find your ruthless focus strategy? If you want to leave here this afternoon and give it some thought, here's some things you can do. 1, study your industry. What are the opportunities? Are you really making money? You need to determine if you've got margins that are going to allow you to try some experimentation. Are you really different enough to pull customers from your competitors? This is where most people fail. Are you really different enough to pull customers from your competitors? And research what your customers think of you. You'd be surprised. Sometimes they have wonderful suggestions. And remember to ask yourself the 2 most important questions. How are we going to make money? And how are we going to beat the competition? Always look for opportunities. I want to close by telling you a story about an entrepreneur in the 40s and 50s named Malcolm McLean. He had a trucking company, and since it was small, he often drove one of his trucks himself. And he was hauling to and from seaports. And he would pull up at the seaport, and he would wait in line with all the other trucks while the stevedores unloaded the contents of the ships. And I don't know if you remember this, but they were big nets. And the net would go in the hold of the ship, and the sailors would load it up, and it would come over, land on the dock, and the stevedores would parcel out the net and figure out what went where. And it took hours and hours to unload a ship. And all the trucks that were waiting just had to sit there. And Malcolm said to himself, this is not the most efficient way to do it. So he came up with a great idea, and he sold his trucking company for $5 million in 1955. And he went to New York, and he got Walter Wriston, who was head of Citibank at the time, to lend him $60 million because he was so convincing about this new idea. He invented containerized shipping, and his company became Sea Land, which became the largest shipping in the world. But the thing that's amazing about what Malcolm McLean did was he saw a problem that thousands of other people saw every day. But he was the one that said, wait a minute, maybe I can do something with this. And he was ruthlessly focused on changing shipping, and he did. He had to have a better way, and there's always a better way. That's the neat thing about being in business. His idea changed the world and the way shipping is done today. His strategy was to build a new way of shipping goods, and it was successful. So start by looking at your own industry. There are probably some opportunities there that you haven't seen. Who knows, you could be the next Malcolm McLean. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.